back to this special edition of Front Porch Politics. We are on the road this week in an RV telling the stories of North Carolina as we head into these midterm elections. One issue that's been on the plate for several elections now, hurricane recovery. We're on our way to Goldsboro, where, believe it or not, there are some people that are still not back to their home after 6 years.
You're on the John Street side of Goldsboro.
The remnants of past hurricanes remain evident around seemingly every corner in Wayne County.
This neighborhood here, it's frankly not been uncommon to drive by and see storage units sitting outside where folks have still been working and rebuilding their house. This neighborhood here was underwater for the most part.
Families feeling left behind. Can you describe what the last 6 years has been like?
Hell.
Tiny towns barely hanging on for survival.
Since 2016, we've been looking at these growed-up houses. And I personally, I don't understand why it's taken 6 years.
In 6 years, 2 hurricanes. Time ticks on, but many of these communities and families feel stuck. Our day started with an RV in front of the Wayne County Courthouse, a quick meeting with County Manager Chip Crumpler and David Harris. They helped with a program that bought out flood victims' homes.
It's too long.
I wanted to find out from their perspective why it takes so long for people to get in new homes or their old homes fixed.
Unfortunately, HMGP nor CDBG-GDR, neither one of those programs are emergency response programs. They are mitigation programs, projects that take multiple years to go through.
There is no real good answer to fix all that, is there?
Not when you have it on the scale that Matthew and Florence was.
Matthew really destroyed something. It went halfway up our wall.
Barbara and Charles Daly's house flooded in Floyd and Matthew. Reluctantly, they chose the buyout program, but it took 3 years to get the money. They had to leave a lifetime behind. How much time had you spent in that house?
In 1964.
1964.
Yeah.
So, what did it feel like then to be forced to leave it, essentially?
Terrible. It still, when I go by it now, I slow up. It's on the main highway, you know, but it's automatically slow up, expecting to turn in, so I still hadn't fully recovered from it.
All right, so I wanted to see the house for myself. We didn't want to drag the Dalys out here. As you heard, it's tough for them to even think about it, let alone come visit. So we asked the county if we could come here and check out the house, and they said go for it. So here we are. As we get underneath the carport here, you can still see, I mean, this is 6 years later after Hurricane Matthew. You can still see sort of the dust and the remains from where the water was. And you can almost, it's hard to tell, but you can see a line here of where the water was up. No door handle, the window's broken here as we head into the house. It's going to be dark in here, but you can see it's completely gutted.
So this is the original
Oh my gosh,
town
it
hall.
still is on there.
Yeah, it's original town hall.
So this got flooded too?
So, yeah, several times, and it's probably not even safe to go in anymore.
Our next stop was Wayne County's oldest town, Seven Springs. This town has like a super long history of survival, right?
It does. It has survived, Civil War battle. It survived. The town was burnt, has been burnt 2 or 3 times. They burned most of it after that battle. They had the Civil War battle, but then it burned again sometime in the early 1900s, I think. And then it's had 3 floods in my lifetime. And then they had a flood sometime in the 60s.
Do you know roughly how many people live here now?
The last census said 55.
55.
We dropped from 110 to 55 after the last flood. And probably before the 99 flood, there was probably 250 people down here.
The town's a shadow of its past, burdened by damage from Matthew and Florence, like this collapsed drain that could create even bigger problems in future storms. But a fix comes with a $50,000 bill. What is the town's budget even?
We have like $44,000 a year.
So that project would be $6,000 more than the town's whole budget for a year. You might say, why reinvest in such a tiny town that finds itself underwater storm after storm? Thank you so much. Well, inside May's restaurant, State Representative Jimmy Dixon argues they are worth saving because each place has a story, and for people like Patricia Jones, it's home.
The connotations of rural means to some people backward. You know, we actually have electricity in most of our homes. We've got indoor plumbing. We have computers and stuff like that. So I like to classify it as non-urban. But the biggest thing that has happened in non-urban North Carolina that we've yet figured out how to overcome is the bypass. The transportation bypass to make it easier to get from point A to point B. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands of little communities like this have been bypassed by the bypass.
After lunch, we headed back toward Goldsboro.
Where we're at right now is actually underwater, probably about 3 feet underwater. You see some of the houses like right there.
House Majority Leader John Bell took us for a spin to see how things have stood still for 6 years in some streets.
These are vacant here. You do have some that have some residents. That house has been condemned.
We toured damage together in 2016, right after Hurricane Matthew. There's a lot of finger pointing, and it's complicated with state and federal agencies. Recently, the governor did order the state agency in charge of recovery to streamline, improve customer service, and get people back in their homes. But it's still a long process. Insiders have also said hiring builders to help is challenging in a booming housing market. When people ask you, why is this taking 4, 5, 6 years, how do you explain it to them?
I can't. All I try to do is get their information, and we take it case by case and try to help them wherever we can.
So where do you think the water was in here?
Oh, if I recall right, the water came just about right here.
Before we left town, Representative Bill took us to see this woman, Viola Figueroa. Her grandfather built this house way back in 1945, but it was no match for the flooding of Hurricane Matthew. It actually survived the storm, but not the days that followed.
10 minutes later, I can't remember if it was a state trooper or a local cop came through and said, you got to evacuate. We was like, what are you talking about? It's sunny, no rain. He said that the gates in Raleigh had been open and it's coming this way.
That was 6 years ago, and they've been living in a FEMA trailer behind the house ever since. Her story is really confusing between FEMA, insurance, and other government agencies. She says a year ago a demolition date was set to build a new home, but the old home still stands to this day. Barely.
So everybody's pushing the buck. They're moving stuff around. And we just need one central location. I have had probably about 74 case managers, people to come out each month, people that have been paid to watch over our case, and I had to tell the construction liaison, I had to tell her about the demolition. She didn't even know.
In the years since, her husband passed, and she's left with lingering memories that she knows will be crushed by a bulldozer.
That garage, out of everything that's falling down, I think that's going to hurt me the most, because that was the actual last thing my grandfather built, was that garage. And I mean, the days of, out there playing and, okay. Yeah, that's going to be the hardest part.
Staring at her FEMA trailer 100 feet from her family home, it's hard for her to comprehend 6 years later.
People have died and not been able to just get back to their peace of mind. We have a place to stay, but this was my home. And to be homeless at 54, to be homeless at 70 in America, I feel, may get backlash, but I feel sorry for the people in Ukraine. But daggone, if you can send millions and billions of dollars over there, help us. Help us. I'm not asking for a 50,000 square foot mansion. I'm just asking for a home.
We should also mention that Representative John Bell just this past summer was named co-chair of a new committee at the legislature that's going to investigate some of these delays in hurricane recovery.